Chief, you know, I was listening to your comments here and appreciate what you're saying about forest health and what we need to be doing to address the faro barring. As I mentioned in my opening, I'm clearly with you on that. What I didn't hear was what we're going to do about harvest. We're talking about everything else on our national forests, the national forests that are supposed to be managed for multiple use. Well, multiple use, last time I checked, included harvest. Mm-hmm. And so I want to talk about that part of it in my first round here, because I'm just concerned that, again, when we talk about this transition to second growth and this proposal that the Secretary has and that you are tasked with implementation, again, that it's not something that can actually bear fruit. Until we passed the Sealaska Lands Bill last year, the CMAI requirement of the National Forest Management Act prohibited timber harvest on the Tongass until the timber had reached its so-called rotation age. And the rotation age for the Tongass is 90 to 100 years, depending on where you are. And since we really didn't see significant timber harvest in the Tongass until the 1960s, the harvest of young growth ordinarily wouldn't be allowed under the National Forest Management Act for another 30 to 40 years. So, and you've also got a situation where in the 60s, when we saw most of that timber harvest, it was along the beaches, it was along the streams, and so harvest of any of the young growth timber is not going to be permitted in these areas because of the Tongass Timber Reform Act and the 2008 forest plan restrictions. So the oldest of the young growth isn't available for harvest, notwithstanding this departure from CMAI. So how do we get to what you're talking about here to really see any viable harvest of second growth that will be available in this time period when you're talking about this transition? It just doesn't add up. So I can understand on paper what it is that you're looking for, but in the Tongass, given the nature of what we're dealing with, how do you make this work?
Well, Madam Chair, you know, first of all, when I look at the progress we've been making over the last few years, I feel good about the progress we're making. When I look back,
describe to me the progress, because people in Southeast don't feel like there's a lot of progress. There's a lot of progress with our small operators that are looking and saying, "I'm out of here. I cannot keep people on a payroll if I don't have logs in my yard." So where are we on the progress?
So with what we're proposing in our FY16 budget, nationally, our level of harvest will have gone up 33% over the last about 6 years.
Are we talking the Tongass?
No, we're talking nationally.
No, we're not talking the Tongass. I want to talk the Tongass because this is my state's, or used to be my state's economy. But now there's no economy down there anymore. And you're talking about this transition to second growth. And there is no way, at least in Southeast, at least in the Tongass, our nation's largest national forest, that we're seeing progress. So I want you to define progress for me to the people of the Tongass.
Well, the progress, I think, as you look at what we've been able to accomplish, you know, the last couple of years, we are putting up more. It's not adequate. The bridge timber we talk about, to be able to provide the bridge until we can move into the second growth. We were able to get the big thorn sale out last year. We're optimistic we'll be moving forward with it this year.
We got a little bit of an ESA issue with Big Thorn. You and I both know that. So to say that we got it out there and it's going to be this big bridge out there, the people on Prince of Wales are not so optimistic about this right now.
Well, Senator, I'm going to remain optimistic based on the work that we've done to be able to address the concerns with species. And at the same time, we're going to be moving forward with additional cells this year. We're going to be moving forward with Wrangell, with Saddle Lakes.
What will those sales yield us in terms of board feet?
we're going to put another 70 million board feet up for sale this year, and then the same thing the next year, and maybe a little bit more. The Kosciuszko sale with the Sea Alaska bill, and I do want to thank you for getting that through, because it does help us to address the CMAI issue. But it will modify the Kosciuszko sale, so we'll have to put a little more work into that before we can move forward with it. But we're going to be moving forward with those. So we are planning to do the bridge, what we call the bridge timber, until we can get to second growth. And there are areas in that, we worked. We've actually been using some of the examples that Sea Alaska has put forward with some of their sales to be able to show that there is a market, for this second growth. And it's one of the things that not only the Forest Service wants to move into this, but you see that Sea Alaska also wants to move into, developing the markets, for second growth. So we're going to continue to put up our bridge sales, and as we begin to start putting up second growth. We had a small second growth sale last year. We're going to have some more small cells this year. Next year we'll have a larger second growth cell. So that's the transition. It's also essential that the advisory committee, that once again I'm confident that advisory committee is going to come up with some very good recommendations about what should be the land base as we move forward with second growth. What are some of the guidelines that people can maybe agree to about how to move forward? What are the time frames? And so I'm optimistic that advisory committee will provide us a recommendation that could be one of the alternatives that we'll look at as we amend the forest plan. So that is our path forward, and I'm going to remain confident on the Big Thorn until otherwise. But at the same time, we are moving forward with additional sales this year.
Chief, I have let you go over 2 minutes because I wanted to actually hear if there would be anything in your statement that I could believe was going to provide hope that we're going to see something different out of the Forest Service for the people of the Tongass. And maybe 2 minutes wasn't adequate to let you explain it. But I don't think you are offering anything more than you have, which is nothing. Which is nothing to the people of the Tongass. Now, I'm going to have an opportunity for a second round here to talk about some of the retooling. I want to talk about secure rural schools, because right now, I've got an industry that is not confident of their future. And so they've got to figure out how they're going to keep the people who want to live and raise their families in Southeast, how they're going to find some other work. So I am not encouraged this morning, and I don't think the people in my state are encouraged this morning. With that, I'll go to my friend from New Mexico.